Improving your run times and your strength at the same time is absolutely possible, and it's not rocket science. But I still see a lot of guys struggle with balancing these two and seeing consistent progress. So in today's video, we're going to break down how you can improve both without burning out or hitting plateaus. First, let's talk about what most people get wrong. The number one problem I see with guys who are trying to improve their strength and their running is just trying to do too much. A lot of times when we get into these phases where we want to make progress on both, we'll search out or we'll do what we know works in regards to strength training, and then we'll just stack a running plan on top of that. But the way I want you to think about it is we have a certain number of energy units on a weekly basis, and we have to strategically invest those energy units to see the consistent progress we want. If we just try to do too much too quickly, stack up the volume, it undermines our recovery, and we start hitting those plateaus and develop a lot of frustration because we're working our ass off but not getting the results that we're after. So the key is not just doing more and playing program Tetris, it's about finding the right balance for where you're currently at and what your specific goals are. Here's how you can structure your training to improve both strength and running. For most athletes, 3 to 4 strength sessions per week is plenty to get the stimulus needed to continue seeing progress with this. And with these strength sessions, you want to ensure that you're hitting the essential movement patterns. So the squat, hinge, vertical press, vertical pull, single leg, and some type of dynamic movement like jumps or lateral movement. For these, I like to prioritize compound movements as much as I can, but within each movement pattern, there's different variations of exercises. So for example, if you're somebody that doesn't have the mobility or the comfortability to do a back squat, you can substitute that out for a front squat, Zercher squat, goblet squat, whatever the case may be, as you build up your mobility and your strength to the different movements. Don't feel like you have to go in there and jump into a specific exercise if you're not there mobility wise or you're not there strength wise. Everything is a progression, and we want to make sure that you're training for the long term, not just putting some arbitrary numbers down on paper. The specific split you use during these strength sessions won't have a drastic impact on your long-term performance as long as you're training with consistency. For most guys, including myself, who have busy schedules and things like that, I prefer to use a full body split. This ensures that if I have a busy week or if I'm traveling or whatever the case may be and I miss a workout here and there, I'm still getting balanced stimulus on a weekly basis. A full body split also enables us to increase the frequency that we're hitting these essential movement patterns without causing so much soreness, fatigue, or anything like that. But whether you want to do a full body split, an upper lower split, an anterior posterior split, a push pull legs, they're completely fine, but you want to choose those movements within the plan that you can continue building strength within those movement patterns. One thing to note with these is the splits, like a push pull legs, you will develop a lot more soreness with those specific workouts. So if you are trying to hit speed days or focus on getting your run time down, then you want to place the leg days after a speed day so your legs aren't just completely sore and crushed prior to going into that training session. Now, to balance these with conditioning, you can pair these strength sessions with these shorter but higher intensity conditioning sessions like interval runs or low impact alternatives such as my favorite, the assault bike or rower. With these high intensity sessions, I'm a big fan of high intensity interval training. So 20 on, 10 off, 30 on, 15 off, but you can also just do them for calories or for time. The goal with these sessions is to keep them short, so we're not creating a ton of fatigue, but we want them to be very intense, and we want our heart rate to get into those higher zones for these sessions, which is working on our anaerobic conditioning and our capacity to perform in those higher heart rate zones. Then on non-lifting days, I like to program in those long, slow runs or zone 2 runs. And with these, the goal is to not go out there and crush yourself and set PRs with every run, but improve your body's efficiency in moving over longer distances and periods of time. For this, you really want to keep it nice and easy. If you're using like an RPE scale, so rating of perceived exertion, it should be like a 4 out of 10. And if you're using heart rate, then you want to keep it in zone 2, or if zone 2 is super low for you, then you can have that underneath your maximum aerobic heart rate. A good rule of thumb for this is 180 minus your age, and aim to keep your heart rate underneath this. If you're not using a Garmin watch or a chest strap or anything like that, then the physiological markers that you want to be able to maintain throughout these runs, you want to be able to say 18 to 20 words without gasping for breath, and you want to maintain the ability to nasal breathe throughout these sessions. Those are all good indicators that you are using that aerobic system and not pushing your heart rate up to the point where you start going into anaerobic conditioning. If your goal is not specific to running, but just overall conditioning, conditioning, then you can do any form of cardio here. This can be biking, rowing, swimming, etc. The point with these sessions is to improve our aerobic conditioning, and to do that we have to spend time in those heart rate zones. So think much more about the modality that we're doing as a tool to get us into that slightly heightened heart rate for that prolonged period of time, which is really where we're going to get the cardiovascular benefits of the training. Again, the biggest mistake I see is guys trying to do too much, pushing themselves extremely hard in the gym and on the track way too often, which undermines your recovery and enables them to hit plateaus, burnout, and that frustration. Recovery is just as important as the training, so we should be taking it just as seriously as we do our training. In addition to the obvious of eating well, drinking plenty of water, and sleeping enough on a daily basis, we do want to program in some deload weeks every 4 to 6 weeks. Personally, with my personal programming, I like to have a deload week every 4th week, especially for a high volume program that is doing a lot of endurance, a lot of strength, and things like that. Even if we're not feeling sore, if we're training hard on a consistent basis week over week, we will start to develop a lot of CNS, or central nervous system fatigue, and that stacks up, and a lot of times that's when we start hitting plateaus and things like that. So we want to take a week where we reduce the volume or reduce the intensity to maybe 60% or 50%, so that we're enabling our body to kind of catch up on that recovery, make those adaptations, and then we can push further and harder in the upcoming phase and continue making progress. And lastly, follow a structured progression. Start with where you're at, whether it's running, whether it's weight training, and aim to incrementally increase the stresses or the demands that we place on the body over time. If we go 0 to 100 and try to jump into a plan that is way more volume or way too deep into a progression and we're not there yet, then we put ourselves at that increased risk of injury, or we're just not able to handle that workload and we're going to experience a high level of fatigue, which again is going to undermine our overall progress. At the end of the day, if I can leave you with anything, it's to prioritize consistency over that short-term intensity. The only way we get to a high level of performance is by being consistent over a long period of time and implementing those progressions and incrementally increasing the demands that we place on the body. So stick to your plan, demonstrate some delayed gratification, track your progress along the way, and watch how your strength and your conditioning improve over time. If you want some help with this, we have a team of coaches, including myself, 2 other Green Berets, and a strength coach who has spent 13 years in special operations and has worked with multiple NFL teams in the past. We write custom programming, custom nutrition plans, track your progress along the way, and teach you everything you need to know for lifelong success. So if you want to book a free call, use the link down below. Other than that, appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.